Pakistan's Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorist group chief Maulana Masood Azhar's fate, or at least we hope so, now hangs in the balance as a chorus to ban him grows ever louder. Masood will be hopefully banned by the United Nations Security Council in a few hours from now if none of the member states raise any objections by tonight. The proposal to designate the chief of this Pakistan-sponsored terror organization was moved by the United States, UK and France after the Pulwama terror attack 1 month ago. However, China continues to play hardball over whether it will back a ban on Maulana Masood Azhar. It has said that the demand must follow all procedures of the United Nations. China, which has thrice vetoed proposals to ban Masood, has also sought more proof against the Jaish-e-Mohammed chief. Remember, a member state can put a technical hold on any ban on Masood Azhar by sending a letter of objection to the United Nations Security Council by tonight. However, if there is no objection, if they do nothing at all, then Masood will automatically be included in the 1267 sanctions list, which includes the names of those linked with Al-Qaeda. I want to introduce to you now on 5 Live to get the sharpest perspective on the road to this potential ban. We have with us Gaurav Sawant, Executive Editor, India Today TV, Executive Editor, India Today Magazine, Sandeep Punithan, and our Foreign Affairs Editor, Geeta Mohan, who I want to start this off with. Geeta, the China factor is where it's all at. We'll get to what happens if and when a ban takes place, etc. a little later. What are you hearing about China? Because, so far they haven't given very much away. I saw some reports suggesting that China may actually continue with its past record of opposing such a ban. What are you hearing?
Well, the signals are not very positive and not something that India should be really enthusiastic about, Shiv. Look at the statement that came 2 days ago wherein China said that India and Pakistan should first talk, and only talks can be a resolution to this entire crisis. And now just yesterday, again, the Chinese side has come out and said that only a conducive solution would be if all sides, if a solution is acceptable to all sides. And in this case, they're talking about Pakistan. The fact that they are looking at how Pakistan could be very badly isolated in this case, and the fact, Shiv, that every morning when we wake up, we see a sermon or a statement coming from the United States of America has not been productive, so to say. China would not like anybody telling them what to do and what not to.
Very interesting. Gaurav, the signals not very encouraging as far as China is concerned, but I'm sure India must have accounted for this kind of eventuality. What are you hearing from the system? Considering, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Gaurav, that there have been 3 previous occasions in which China has actively opposed any such move to, designate this man a terrorist. What are we expecting now?
So China actually believes, Shiv, in transactional relationships. Yeah. China is an all-weather friend of Pakistan, no denying the fact. But China did stand by India and not Pakistan at the FATF, at the Financial Action Task Force. But China believes in give and take. What is it for China to take in any situation? At the FATF, China wanted to be on the high table, so it permitted Pakistan being put on the grey list. And that is where Pakistan was completely shattered, because Pakistan was very confident China, Turkey and Saudi Arabia will stand by Pakistan come what may. And Pakistan's foreign minister, then foreign minister, they even announced to the world that India has failed, India has tried, nothing's happened and so on. But US worked on Saudi Arabia, India worked on China, Turkey was the only country that stood by Pakistan, and Pakistan was grey listed at FATF. So if we look at that, we'll have to see what is it that India and America can perhaps give to China at this stage. And in case China thinks it has something to take, it'll look after its interests and not Pakistan's
Because
interests.
China, like you rightly pointed out, Gaurav, China and Pakistan are all-weather friends. And considering it's a country that usually deals in a transactional way, what is it that China can gain from, backing a ban on Maulana Masood Azhar appears to be, the dollars and cents question that's up on the table at the United Nations. Sandeep, the question that many Indians will be asking, and I don't think it's a cynical question at all, is, kya fayda? What is the point of such bans? When people see people, terrorists like Hafiz Mohammed Saeed walking around freely, enjoying, perhaps even more facilities and amenities and protections since he was banned, by the United Nations, are people wrong to wonder what is the point of this whole exercise?
Well, Shiv, they're not wrong at all, because as we all know, in the past, there have been all these things that have been done to them. It's all cosmetic punishments.
Yep.
Right? This whole thing of this drama of raids and arrests and detentions and banning and all that, nothing has happened to any of these groups in the last decade or more to suggest that they would not do what they do all the time, which is terror attacks, plan for terrorist attacks. This is not going to make 1 cent's worth of difference to their existence as terrorist groups. Neither the Lashkar has been, put on the blacklist. I mean, has been on the back foot because of their blacklist. It's not going to work in the case of the Jaish-e-Mohammed as well, because there is a very there's a small lacuna here, because whatever the UN does, whether they designate them as a global terrorist organization or not, unless the Pakistani state, unless the Pakistani government does something, takes action on them, puts them, arrests them, confiscates their properties, freezes their bank accounts, nothing can actually happen which the courts in Pakistan cannot overturn. So this is a very big lacuna. Until the Pakistani government actually acts on them, you will have Hafiz Mohammed Saeed and you will have Maulana Masood Azhar operating freely, going and petitioning the courts, saying that, overturn these bans on
basically us. Using the system in Pakistan.
Because they roam free. I mean, they're called Sarkari Mujahideen in Pakistan. I mean, that's how ridiculous it is.
And like we report, like the Pakistani press has been reporting, Maulana Masood Azhar happens to be ailing and is in the military hospital in Rawalpindi. So you don't get to be a guest of the Pakistan military if you are not a valued asset, which Maulana Masood Azhar most undoubtedly is. Ananta Krishnan is also with us. Thanks for being with us, Anant. Anant is a visiting fellow with the Brookings Institution in India. He happens to also be a former Beijing correspondent for India Today. Anant, welcome. How are you seeing how things play out tonight at the United Nations Security Council? You've been in China and covered the entire span of Beijing opposing any action vis-a-vis the United Nations against Maulana Masood Azhar. Are you getting the sense tonight could be different, Anant?
Well, Shiv, frankly, it seems like Groundhog Day, having covered this throughout 2016 and 2017. And as Geeta said, I think the signals coming out of Beijing don't really bode well in terms of what they're saying publicly. Although anything is possible, because the Chinese Foreign Ministry is sometimes the last to know if the higher-ups have taken a decision, so we'll have to wait and see. But what we do know from the past 3 instances is they don't seem to be bothered about being isolated. I think India has done as much as it can do in terms of getting 14 out of the 15 members on board. And I think, as Gaurav said, it's about finding the right moment where China needs something from India or the US or the UN, and I think it's a question of when and not if this happens. And as far as India is concerned, if it doesn't happen today, the trick is to keep the pressure and to ensure that we don't take our eyes off the ball and keep this issue alive, even if the value may be more symbolic than, as Sandeep said, on the ground.
No, that's very interesting, because, Geeta, people will also want to know, where does this lack of concern or lack of fear of being isolated come from? I mean,
for China?
They couldn't, for China, because the reason I'm asking is because right now there couldn't possibly be a more intense public glare, globally speaking, on the Jaish-e-Mohammed. This would seem like an opportune time, to strike at the United Nations. It would also, in my mind, or at least in the public mind, it would give most nations who want to protect the Jaish-e-Mohammed very little elbow room, because the world is watching your every move. Where does this confidence from China come from?
Shiv, China couldn't care less what the international community thinks. They think strategic. They think what's important to them. Pakistan certainly is very important strategically as well as economically. And the fact that the United States of America and taking sides when it comes to the geopolitics of it, India has already sided, or US has already sided with India, it does not go down well with Beijing at this point in time. Also, more importantly, if you're looking at the larger picture, and if Gaurav is talking about FATF goes with consensus of the House. It does not have veto powers. And China was smart enough to understand that and said, okay, well, vice presidency is more important than not being a part of the consensus. But over here, China has veto power. And they're going to use that veto if they think that right now is not the time. Remember, there is going to be a meeting between Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. If Narendra Modi comes back to power after elections, because they made it very clear. And in all probability, they'll see if they want to take it from there on.
Anant, what is it that China wants from India? You know, if we're looking at it as a transactional relationship, what is it that, you know, potentially China would want from India, want in return, you know, for being on board this kind of an action or a move at the UNSC?
That's a great question, Shiv. If you look at the past record of voting, these the kind of voting patterns of the UN tend to be give and take when it comes to UN-related, you know, things that China wants, rather than other aspects of the bilateral relationship, which have their own logic. I think FATF, Geeta makes a good point, but at the same time, speaking to Indian officials at the time, my sense was they do seem to think that finally getting China to act on something like Masood Azhar would require two things. One is something at the level of the UN where China would need the US support or a friendly country to back it. And the second thing is terrorism in China is the other thing that they feel. If terrorism becomes a bigger issue for China than it is at present, Indian officials do believe that they'll take a more long-term view rather than a very short-termist view when it comes to looking at their interests in Pakistan, because quite frankly, it's only because they feel that the Pakistan state is addressing their specific concerns about groups such as the ETIM. That's why they play ball with the Pakistani state. And if they feel that changes, then of course anything is possible.
So the final two questions I want to put to Gaurav first and then Sandeep are, let's look just one step beyond this whole ban process, Gaurav, because I frankly, personally, even as a journalist, and you know, we've both covered the Hafiz Mohammed Saeed issue, the ban is meaningless. You know, I don't want to look down upon, you know, global and international process. The United Nations has its own dignity and it has its own processes. I don't want to look down upon it, but frankly, it's meaningless, because the people who are banned by the UNSC operate freely. They've got protections. Like Sandeep said, they can move systems, they can move courts, etc. Beyond the ban, Gaurav, what are India's options against the Jaish-e-Mohammed? FATF done, diplomatic pressure done, global spotlight done. We've struck Balakot. What next?
So, you know, if he's banned, if Masood Azhar is banned, if he's on the 1267 sanctions committee, there is added pressure on Pakistan to take action against him, because this matter comes up in FATF once again in May. And if Pakistan is blacklisted, Pakistan is sunk, because Pakistan desperately needs that IMF $12 billion bailout, and that $12 billion bailout from IMF, a lot depends on Pakistan taking legal, irreversible, verifiable action against Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed as an entity, though not Masood Azhar as an individual. So it's you know, it's mounting more pressure on Pakistan, diplomatic pressure. That's point one. Point two, as you very rightly pointed out, Shiv, so while diplomatic pressure is only one part of the story, the more important part as far as India is concerned, and what Prime Minister Narendra Modi also said, of course, at an election rally, ki ye sarkar ghus kar maregi. That's the only other way that India can deal with Pakistan state-sponsored terror, and that is to bleed terrorists. You know, yesterday at the Suraksha Sabha of Aaj Tak, General Bikram Singh, former Chief of the Army Staff, has said that India stirred a hornet's nest by striking Balakot. Now you either take down that beehive of terrorists, you either burn it completely, or those bees will come and sting you.
You know, because India has demonstrated it. On February 26, India demonstrated that it can use air power to strike at facilities run by the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Sandeep, you know, considering where things stand right now militarily, the whole world is watching, that brings its own difficulties. The sense now is that India's next act of offense will be if there is another provocation. So are we in a situation where potentially the Indian Air Force, the Indian military have designated targets of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, but nothing will happen unless there is another provocation?
Well, Shiv, that's been the rule for the last couple of years at least, that India will strike only if there is a terror attack that crosses the threshold, either a high visibility attack on a mainland Indian city like Mumbai, or a high casualty attack like what happened in Pulwama. But my sense is that for the first time the Indian armed forces feel that they have a government that is listening to options for sub-conventional retaliation. You're looking at options like airstrikes, you've had the cross-border commando raids.
Yes.
Tomorrow it could well be a cruise missile strike from a naval submarine. So, you know, these are the raft of options that the armed forces are now going to put before the government, because now they've actually seen these plans being implemented for the first time. And let me tell you, Shiv, the Air Force way back in 2010 put down this subconventional attack doctrine as an option for the government. It's a public document which actually tells the government and the people that we have this capability of carrying out subconventional thing. It's part of our doctrine. So I wouldn't be surprised if all the armed forces now get together and start you know, looking at these, what are the kind of capabilities that they need to build up, either on their own or with the intelligence agencies, you know, to handle such future eventualities.
And that's, if I may, just 10 seconds. Remember this time when India struck Pakistan, Foreign Secretary Vijay Gokhale made it very clear that this wasn't in retaliation, but this was a preemptive strike. And that terminology is very important. So if a government is bold enough, it will go hit again if there is intelligence and say it was a preemptive strike.
And say it's a preemptive strike. No, that's very important, because this was not a Badla strike. The government has held that this was a preemptive strike because they believed that there were plans and there was radicalization of Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists for a next potential attack on India. So that leaves the door wide open. As Sandeep also said, the doctrine exists, the plans exist. A land attack has already happened. You know, an air attack has just happened. Who knows, maybe there will be an attack from the sea next. We're not warmongering. We're just saying that there are options on the table, and India has already demonstrated 2/3 of those options at the very least. Thanks very much, Anant, Geeta, Sandeep and Gaurav for joining me on this discussion. Also, Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman spoke about it. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad launched a sort of united attack on Pakistan at the Aaj Tak Security Summit in Delhi yesterday. Here are the salient bits of what they said.
इंडिया पाकिस्तान के वर्तमान रिश्ते को आप कैसे देखते हैं? क्या आपको लगता है कि जो मैसेज हमें देना था पाकिस्तान को वो दे दिया गया है, इसके बाद पाकिस्तान बाज आएगा, या आपको लगता है कि उरी, पठानकोट, पुलवामा यही सिलसिला चलता रहेगा?
I hope not. I honestly hope not. पाकिस्तान को ये समझ में आना चाहिए अभी कि दुनिया में एक भी ऐसे देश नहीं है जो पाकिस्तान को फ्रेंडली तरीके से, डिप्लोमेटिक तरीके से, या तो कठोर शब्द में तो बोल रहे हैं कि आप टेरर को कम करो, टेरर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को डिस्ट्रॉय करो, ये दुनिया के लिए अच्छा नहीं है। ये बात तो सब देश बोल रहे हैं। पुलवामा के बाद और फरवरी 26 के बाद एक भी ऐसे देश नहीं था जो पाकिस्तान को इसके ऊपर कटाक्ष नहीं बोले, और हमारे साथ सब खड़े हुए हैं। जितनी भी दोस्ती है, आई मस्ट से चाइना ऑल्सो हैज ओनली सेड व्हाट दे प्रोबेबली वांट टू बैलेंस एंड स्टेट. दे हैव नॉट सेड आवर थिंग वाज रॉन्ग. सो पाकिस्तान को तो अभी इंट्रोस्पेक्शन का समय है. वो ये नहीं बोल सकते हैं कि हम भी विक्टिम है इसीलिए हम जेल रहे हैं. अगर आप भी विक्टिम है तो क्यों जेल रही हो जी? भारत के खिलाफ तो आप बेजी रहे हो, उसमें कुछ सोचने का विषय नहीं है. मगर अगर आपके बात, हम तो सहमत नहीं है उस बात में कि वो भी विक्टिम है, हम उस बात में सहमत नहीं है. यू आर एनकरेजिंग परपेट्रेटर्स और उनके ऊपर एक्शन नहीं ले रहे, यही है हमारी लाइन. मगर एक मिनट के लिए अगर पाकिस्तान की लाइन मानते हैं, वो है कि हम भी विक्टिम हैं, फिर क्यों आप विक्टिम रहना चाह रही हो? खाली करो इन टेररिस्ट को, कानूनन सख्त एक्शन लो उनके ऊपर, उनके इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को डिसबैंड करो और दुनिया को दिखाओ आपके इंटेंशन स्पष्ट है.
अभी पाकिस्तान कह रहा है कि हमने हाल में कार्रवाई की है, 40 से ज्यादा आतंकवादियों को प्रिवेंटिव अरेस्ट में लिया गया है, कुछ ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस बैन हुए. क्या आपको लग रहा है कि वाकई में पाकिस्तान सीरियस है इस दफा, या आपको लगता है कि
नहीं? हर बार आई होप दे आर सीरियस, मगर हर बार जब भी दुनिया के हीट उनके ऊपर ज्यादा होता है, ऐसे कुछ नाम के वास्ते एक्शन दिखाते हैं, फिर बात जब ठंडा होता है दोबारा शुरू होते हैं. कॉन्क्रीट एक्शन, ट्रांसपेरेंट एक्शन, सख्त एक्शन दिखाना चाहिए पाकिस्तान. अब तक मुझे कुछ नहीं मिल रहा है उसमें.
किसी भी स्ट्राइक का मकसद ये होता है कि दुश्मन देश को ये समझ में आए कि अगर एक बार फिर से भारत में आतंकवादी हमला हुआ तो उसका खामियाजा भुगतना पड़ेगा, बड़ी कीमत चुकानी पड़ेगी. हमने सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक के बाद देखा कि पुलवामा फिर से हुआ. अभी क्या आपको लग रहा है कि अगला आतंकवादी हमला ना हो, ऐसा मैसेज आईएसआई को गए? आपको लगता है कि उनकी फितरत नहीं बदलेगी?
राहुल जी, मुझे लगता है वो क्या करेंगे आपके नियंत्रण में नहीं है, लेकिन इस हरकत की कीमत बहुत महंगी पड़ेगी, क्योंकि आज का भारत आर्थिक दृष्टि से, कूटनीति की दृष्टि से, मिलिट्री स्ट्रेंथ की दृष्टि से आज मजबूत देशों में से है और इसलिए दुनिया के बहुत बड़े देशों में से है। और उस देश के साथ तुम खिलवाड़ करोगे, सो द कॉस्ट दैट यू विल हैव टू पे विल बी वेरी हेवी। और आज कॉस्ट देखिए क्या है, आपको अपने नागरिकों से झूठ बोलना पड़ता है, इकोनॉमी आपकी एकदम बहुत खराब परिस्थिति में है। 13वीं बार पाकिस्तान IMF के पास गया है कि मेरी मदद करो, मेरे पास खर्चा करने के लिए पैसा नहीं है, मुझे पैसा दो। इट्स 13th एंट्री इनटू द IMF। और मैं कई बार तुलना करता हूं पाकिस्तान की और बांग्लादेश की। बांग्लादेश के सभी सीमाओं पे भारत है, उन्होंने भारत से दोस्ती कर ली, मौजूदा सरकार के तहत उनके यहां स्थिरता आई है पिछले 1 दशक में। उनके आर्थिक मापदंड देख लीजिए तो वो भारत से
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.